Good evening. Welcome to another exciting episode of An Evening with the Range Rover Doctor. This episode is quite impromptu, and unfortunately, we're going to talk about the recent incident of fire with some Range Rovers. When the last one occurred, I got a lot of phone calls that evening. I got a lot of text messages and DMs asking what could have happened. This video is not an inference on that particular case, so it's not about saying this is what happened or this is what might have happened, but this video actually addresses three groups: independent mechanics, which are mechanics that are out of the Land Rover dealership, Land Rovers and Range Rover owners, and of course the main dealership. And even with the Range Rover Doctor, let's get on with it. Welcome once again to An Evening with the Range Rover Doctor. Once again, I want to reiterate that this particular topic does not represent an inference on the specific situation or occurrence of Range Rover fire incident that may have occurred. Rather, it's purely educational and is a guideline for the three groups I have mentioned: independent mechanics, Range Rover owners, and the Range Rover dealership, as a guideline from the independent mechanic point of view. Servicing older cars and working on these cars, we actually know and we see more than any other person or any other group I have mentioned. So we'll start with our first group, the independent mechanics. The very first point here, the most crucial point that we would want to start with, is the steps you take in taking parts out of a car, your repair procedure. Number one, Jaguar Land Rover has a portal called the Tech Info, where everything is written: how to take all the parts apart, what to do, and the steps to take. When you take the steps, please remember to reverse them, which means put everything back in the reverse order if stated in the Tech Info. It is very important, very, very important. There must be no rush. And that takes us to a very, very crucial point in Range Rovers, which is the heat shield. The heat shield actually prevents the exhaust from having direct heat contact to every other part that surrounds it. We have noticed that in the past, mechanics take this out because it's difficult to take out, and apparently it doesn't look like it does anything, does it? It does a lot. So it keeps the temperature in check. Yes, all the plastics and most of the components around those parts are actually heat resistant, but there's an extent to the heat that it resists. So when you're actually taking out parts from the engine, specifically, especially around the exhaust, please remember to place all the heat shields back. The heat shield is the part that looks like it's shiny, and some look like it's made out of aluminium. But those materials you see actually heat resistant materials. Heat shields must be put back, especially those around the fuel lines. Please put them back. And every other part you fix, put them back in the right order. Secondly, we go to the fuel line, and every other part of the car actually relates to this. The fuel line of specifically the L405 has a lot of seals in the couplings, and these seals are actually made not to be reused. So when you take them out and you're putting it back, please get new seals and put them back in the right order. Then we go to the injectors. When you take out these injectors and service them for any reason, the high pressure injectors or the regular ones, let's talk about older cars now, the seals around the injectors are not reusable. You are meant to change them and put them back properly. And if you check the Tech Info, if you're putting those bolts back on an aluminium structure, you should discard the bolts. Do not reuse them. These parts are very important. They must be changed. Now, we go to mistakes during repairs. If you make a mistake when fixing something, please be transparent to the owner. Let them know. At times it's difficult because you might be fixing a part or a service or a repair that is worth 100,000, 200,000, and you break a part that's worth 500,000. Yes, there are little parts. Let's go, for example, the fuel rate sensor for the L405. It's very, 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 very delicate. And over time, as well, the plastic surrounding those sensors actually break down. And when you just shift it a little bit, it breaks. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. That is why you have to let the owner know that this service that you intended to last for an hour might be the next day or the day after, because a very delicate part is broken. You don't just go and replace it with what's it called? Glue. JB Weld. No, please don't do that. Then we'll move on to fixes that are beyond your scope. If a Range Rover comes to you and you cannot, you know that this is a process you've not done before, and you please be transparent to the owner and let the owner know that we haven't done this before. If you want us to attempt it, let us do so. Otherwise, take it to a more experienced workshop. Then we'll come to that pressure from owners. Yes, that's why you're in business. You need to make money. But please do not compromise and say, I can do what I can do your fix in 5 days when it's going to take 15 days. In 3 hours when you know this fix would really take a whole day. Because when you rush it, because the mechanics are kind of doing anything wrong, no wrong intention, but they rush it because you want to please your clients. Please do not do that. Finally, when it comes to parts, please be sure of where you're sourcing your parts from. Yes, at times you don't want to sound so expensive because it's really, really crazy these days. But at the end of the day, it might come back to you, because if you're using a substandard part, it might not, or 100% of the time, it will not give you what you want, and it might end up in total disaster. So for independent mechanics, please follow these steps when you're fixing Range Rovers, and you find out you will not have a problem. Now move on to the next group, Range Rover and Land Rover owners. The first golden rule here is you do not leave it to your mechanic alone. Yes, Land Rover owners are busy people, Range Rover owners are busy people, but don't leave it 100% all the time to your mechanic alone. Be observant. Do your regular checks. Open your hood. If you can't check it yourself, have your driver just take a look around. It's not much. And the next golden rule, keep to your service routine. It might sound like it's a little task, but it is a lot. You need to note it down. Some workshops might not, but we have a service booklet that's like a history for every Range Rover that comes to our workshop. It's in your car. Every single complaint you make is there. Every single procedure we undertake is there. But you can't have every workshop do this. So have a diary, a part of a diary for your car maintenance. You need to know your last service, the next service, what was done, what you need done, what you will have noticed. And that leads to transparency. So if you take your car to the workshop too, every single thing, if you're taking it to another mechanic, you let the current mechanic know, I took it to the other workshop, this is the procedure, undertook this is what happened, and this is what they said, and this is what have not, and what. Because mechanics like doctors are not wizards. These cars are precision equipment. They have lots of parts. We've had cases of clients bringing cars and, for example, it comes in for suspension and suspension is all flat, and we'll fix it and we're like, your height sensors or let's say um, the suspension itself, the strut, which is like the shock absorber, is bad. And they go like, that's why I brought it for. So how would we know? Because your car was lying out flat on the floor. Until you get it up and running, there's no way you can actually lead or get the next step. So you have to be transparent when it comes to diagnosis. And then we come to cost cutting. Do not cut costs. These cars are expensive to fix, yes, I know. But do not say, oh, this mechanic um, did my fix for $50 while I got a quote for $500. It will not always remain that way. Trust me, it will not always remain that way with the next fix that you might need to be done properly. I asked a client once, for example, right now we have our naira to a dollar. It's about 1.6 or thereabout, 1.7, 1.617. If I come up to you and I go like I have dollar to sell for you for $200, 200 naira to a dollar, won't you be worried? So the original parts of this vehicle are actually listed out there online. You can check them yourself. Let's look at oil filters, for example. Your OEM oil filter is about $10 to $20, thereabout. Do the maths. You need to ship it. You need to clear it. So if I come up with a filter and I say it's 5,000 naira, it's even 10,000 naira, you should worry. For how long will I have old stock? So there are a lot of substandard parts, and you fix them and you have problems. These cars are actually luxury vehicles. They were built with the best parts. So do not cut corners, and do not put your mechanic under pressure. Yes, I know they're luxury cars. We love to use them. I love to drive my Range Rover to occasions. It gives me that feel, and when I don't have it, I know the feeling. But then again, you have to wait for the fix. Some of these parts are actually difficult to source. Yes, even directly from Land Rover. They're difficult to source. Some parts are difficult to source. For example, we've had cars with us that had engine problems for over a year. Yes, over a year. And it's been a tournament with the owners. Yes, I don't blame them. They want to have their cars back. But then again, you source for engine parts, or let's even say the engine itself. You ship it down. Think about the time it takes. Those parts, none of those parts are made locally. Think about the time it takes. And you fit it, and there's a slight, just a little bit of a problem with this component. You have to wait all over again. So it's a crazy cycle. I'll talk about the engines later when we're done with this topic. And if your car is not drivable, please do not attempt to drive it. If you notice a smell or a strange pattern from the normal way it works, please stop the car. I've always said this when it comes to, that's another story, when it comes to the coolant level low, which is the major problem of all the engines we've ever had. So do not force your car. Do not put too much pressure. Yes, I understand. There are times you have to follow up with the mechanics because their hands are always full. We know ourselves, right? Yes. But then again, unnecessary pressure leads to stress, leads to rush, and leads to lack of concentration. And at the end of the day, it's back to square one or worse. So owners, please love your Range Rover the way we love it. Take good care of them. Do not use substandard parts. Save up for maintenance. Yes, it is high, but please save up for maintenance so you don't have to cut costs. With Range Rovers, there are no cost cutting. It doesn't exist. If you want to use an old part, you will still come back to square one because the same wear and tear from the one that got bad would affect it. So we'll move on to the next group, the dealership. It's tough, yes. A lot of people might not know this, but it's not as rosy as it looks at the dealership. Competition, setbacks, design flaws, returns, and all. But here is what we want from the dealership. A lot of independent Land Rover mechanics need help. A few of us have access to tech info, topics, and we have all that procedure. We have access to the EPC. But there are mechanics that don't have access to this. So the local dealership should please organize seminars once in a while so mechanics can learn the basic important procedure like the fuel line and everything that is needed to service the fuel line and injectors, and stock these seals and little parts that are needed to service these components. Stock the bolts that must be changed, and just put the procedure out there. And of course, have a forum that mechanics can reach out and tell you what they might have noticed, because most of these cars, their warranty don't exist more than 5 years. So a car that's 12 years old might start a new pattern that's unknown to the dealership. The dealership will now get back to the manufacturer who learned from this. So we need more communication with the local dealership. Range Rover Doctor, this has been our educational talk about Range Rovers and fire incidents. Like I said, it's not an inference or it's not a conclusion as to what may have caused the fire. But what we can conclude is that Range Rovers are very reliable vehicles. They are not fire prone when maintained properly. They will not burst into flame unexpectedly without something going wrong. So proper care must be taken in ownership and in maintenance. We, the independent mechanics, we dig very deep. Now, this is for the dealership. We dig very deep. Like, for example, I would mention this, but this is actually slated for another episode where we're going to talk about our new engines we have in stock. The AJ126 V6 and the AJ133 prone to a lot of overheating issues because of a slight mistake in the design. And over the years, we've actually talked over and over again. And right now, a lot of mechanics and OEM manufacturers have come together and we have come up with a solution. And we are rebuilding these engines. And right now, we have engines on the ground because it takes a lot of time, like I mentioned earlier, to have a proper engine rebuild. So what we're doing as a stopgap is to get as much engines as we can and rebuild them. So when you have a problem with the engine, you just come in and we'll do a swap. And we actually diagnose your vehicle and check what's wrong with it. Then we do a swap. So in 2-3 weeks, your car is back on the road. Yes, it's expensive, but it's a proper fix, and we assure you that the overheating and the engine problems are over. So these are things we expect from the dealership when we rub our minds. Talking about these engines, we're going to speak about fully, and we're going to take you into the workshop and show you these engines and the overhauling of the cooling system, the upgraded cooling system, the upgraded engines, the upgraded hoses, and a warranty that covers all these engines. And finally, for owners, please take care of your cars. And I would like to mention this. The Range Rover Doctor has a new package for our premium clients that has to do with the extinguisher in your vehicle. We're not saying it's anything that's going to happen, but the proper extinguisher to be in every vehicle is a full-size extinguisher and not the tiny ones that you don't even know the maintenance or when they're going to go off on or on off. The proper extinguisher for vehicles is what is meant to be in your vehicle. And for our premium clients, the next time you come in for service, we already stocked these, we ordered them, they started arriving, we're going to put them in your vehicle and we're going to invoice you for that. It might be a bit expensive, but tell you what, this is our package. The extinguisher is going to be in your car for 3 years with full warranty, which means each time your vehicle comes, we're going to check this extinguisher and make sure it's fully operational. One, and in the event that you use, which we know you're not going to use it, hopefully, we know you're not going to use it. Even if you do use it for another vehicle, and we have proof from the insurance that the vehicle you used it for is yours in your name as your Range Rover, we will replace it for 3 years. The extinguisher is going to be in your car. And when the time comes for service, because you cannot keep your extinguisher for that long and just forget about it. So each time we send you a reminder, we're going to do the inspection of your extinguisher and send you the reports. And if there's anything wrong with it for 3 years, we'll replace it. And this comes with all the kits in your vehicle. Your emergency start, your electric hydraulic jack, your updated wheel spanner and jack. Everything is going to be in your Range Rover. Now that's the total package for that is for another post. We're posting it very soon. So you see the full package of the premium car support kit that will be in your trunk as the premium owner of a Range Rover and the Range Rover Doctor support. So guys, see you on the next episode where we'll be talking about these engines. And our closing shot. The Range Rover is a very reliable, luxury, comfortable vehicle that is not fire prone in any way. Your Range Rover, like I always say, will outlive you when properly maintained. Good night, guys. Thank you for joining us again for another episode of An Evening with the Range Rover Doctor. See ya.